Okay, welcome everyone. Hello, and glad to have you here with Real Talk Office Hours, hunting for silver linings for this Monday, July 13, 2020. Hosted today by myself, Corey Hart, and George Katsanos. And we have a very special guest. We have Zach from Startup Grind, Azerbaijan. He's a Startup Grind chapter director there. Now we are brought to you overall by Startup Grind, the world's largest startup community. We have 600 plus chapters in over 125 countries, and we operate with the mission to educate, inspire, and connect. This pandemic has been and will continue to be the great global leveler. As entrepreneurs, we do our very best for our businesses, teams, and families, and we should be informed, rational, analytical, and rigorous in our thinking. We should also learn to control our biases as they emerge in various circumstances. Now, we do invite everyone to join us live every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday as we record these episodes, and then as we track the intersection of facts, biases, and action through our review of global financial markets, alongside check-ins with Startup Grind chapter directors, entrepreneurs, ecosystem stakeholders from across the world. And we do this because no one has a crystal ball, but if we can keep our eyes and ears open and pay attention, we may be able to see around the bend and with some luck, spot the silver linings that are around every cloud. If you do miss the live events, you can catch the recordings at startupgrind.com/grand-rapids, where you can also download reading notes from the show. Now, before I introduce George for a global financial market update, a little bit of housekeeping. Comments made and views expressed by all participants in this podcast are not intended to invite or incite individuals, entrepreneurs, or investors to buy or sell financial assets, real assets, commodities, futures, and/or options. The purpose of this podcast is to educate and to inform, not to trade or to invest. If you feel compelled to trade and/or invest, please call your broker. Remember, however, risk is everywhere, even when you think that you're not taking a risk. So now with that, it's my pleasure to introduce everyone to George Katsanos to get us started with the catch up of what the global markets have been thinking last week and over the weekend. Hey, George.
Hello, everyone. And it seems that the world has not ended over the weekend. On the contrary, everything seems to be positive again. Let's start with our currencies. First and foremost, the dollar is weaker. That means the risk is on. Investors are leaving slowly the dollar and they're beginning to invest across major currencies away from the safe haven of the Federal Reserve. The bond market is telling us that really the sense of, let me put it politely, well-being that has been cultivated by the equities markets is not particularly well-founded. And that's why the bond market is staying put. Starting with Asia, the 10-year yields are across the board stable, no changes at all, whether we're talking about Japan, Australia, New Zealand, or India and South Korea. In Europe, the same story, small changes compared to Friday's close, and most 10-year yields are slightly softer than Friday's close. The reason for that is monetary liquidity. As we will go through the notes later on, you will see that this week the European Central Bank will be sitting on the sidelines as the European decision makers, heads of state, will be meeting to decide how they will allocate the $750 billion worth of stimulus. Here in the Americas, the US 10-year is back at 0.66, Canada unchanged 0.6, 0.57, Brazil just over 6.5, and Mexico under 5.7. The bond market is saying, be careful. Let's look at the commodities. The commodities world is essentially unchanged. From the energy section, West Texas Intermediate above $40, no major change compared to Friday. Natural gas is about 1.8, again, not much change. The Brent closer to $43 a barrel. Looking at gold, however, we're beginning to see that investors are conservative. They're afraid of the debasement of the currencies and or inflation. So the yellow metal is trading well over $1,800 an ounce. Copper, on the other hand, is very close to $300 per pound. And as we discussed, the reason for that is because copper is a substitute for industrial growth. In other words, growth in manufacturing, which is exactly what the Chinese Communist Party has been pushing for quite some time now, and they seem to be working. As far as the grains are concerned, as we have seen, we had quite a bit of rain these last few days in the Midwest. The latest forecast is for a what it's called a heat dome to heat the northern part of the production areas, the Great Plains. For the time being, however, we don't see this. So unless we have any cataclysmic events, the crop is going to be significantly large. And unless we have any major breakthroughs with the Chinese, every rally in the grains is being shorted. That's what we're seeing in corn, in wheat, and in live cattle, which, by the way, live cattle is trading comfortably over $100 per pound. Now, going back into stocks, well, it's one of these days. We have to thank the Federal Reserve, the Bank of England, the Bank of Japan, the Bank of Australia, the Swiss National Bank. We have to thank every single central bank. Is this lunacy or is this lunacy? Green everywhere. So, as we mentioned to our entrepreneurs and to our investors, please be very careful with the signal of the equity market. The equity market is nothing more than a recipient of global liquidity. Whether you're in Karachi, Islamabad, Shanghai, New Zealand, Tokyo, Budapest, Moscow, Amsterdam, Paris, Milan, London, or New York for this matter, you are trading on the green today. So risk is on, and with this, I would like to go back to our notes and mention a couple of things that we need to be very focused about this week. We should be looking into the earnings season, which is starting today. We will have Abbott Laboratories together with PepsiCo, Domino's Pizza, and Netflix reporting today. PepsiCo's reporting today. Tomorrow we have the banks with Citigroup and JP Morgan, with Wells Fargo also presenting quarterly results. On Wednesday we have Goldman Sachs, PNC Bank, US Bancorp, and Alcoa. Abbott Laboratories on Thursday, together with Domino Pizza and Johnson & Johnson. Bank of America is also reporting, together with Morgan Stanley on Thursday. And on Friday, Ally Financial with BlackRock will be closing a busy week. Remember that, please, that when banks start to report the second quarter earnings, all eyes will be on credit loss estimates. In other words, what kind of non-performing loans are the banks holding or the balance sheets? Netflix is going to be interesting because we will see how much the COVID effect has been on online watching or binge watching. With this, I want to refer to you back to our map, and I want to actually welcome our speaker because he comes from a beautiful part of the world, Azerbaijan, on the shores of the Caspian Sea. Zach, welcome.
Yep. Hello. Thank you for inviting.
We're really excited to speak with you, Zach. Thank you, George, for the comprehensive update, and I'm looking forward to getting into those notes, especially as we've had an exciting weekend of news across the world. We're excited to welcome our guest Zach from Azerbaijan, and I'm really before we hit record, Zach, we were talking about one of the main reasons why we're doing this ongoing program is to help break down the stereotypes of different regions that people outside of your region might have. Startup Grind is a global organization, but that doesn't mean that everyone in it has a truly global mindset. I mean, we're all like elbows deep in our own ecosystems, right? And this is meant to be a tool for investors, entrepreneurs to understand what opportunities lie around the corner. And Azerbaijan has a very exciting ecosystem. So we're excited to learn more about it. But first I want to hear about you. So like maybe a little bit background on who you are, maybe why you have this entrepreneurial bug, what you're doing now outside of Startup Grind, and then how you found Startup Grind. That's kind of a lot to cover, but we're really excited to hear about it.
Great, Corey. Thank you very much, by the way. Thank you for inviting. It's really great to just talk about that. It's great to have really great bridges between the several countries and to having the real and grab this little global mindset. And yeah, my name is Zaur, generally, but I'm called like Zach. And I'm from Azerbaijan. I live in Baku, which is the capital of Azerbaijan. And before my current position, I was a CEO of the Using Entrepreneurship program, which was kind of the incubation center, which was founded by Coca-Cola Foundation. Then I had like invitation from the government, from Innovation Agency Azerbaijan, which is under the Ministry of High Technologies, Transportation and Communication. And now currently I'm project coordinator at Startup Survey and Acceleration Department. We have Borama Acceleration. Generally, it's the incubation center, and also we do on a yearly basis, we do acceleration programs and incubation programs. And so generally my work is about like having the good connections with startups, with entrepreneurs. So we're just trying to guide them and help them to grow. When it comes to the startup grind, surely, it's great to have your own community. It's great to have people and great ecosystem plays and enables new communities, but at the same time you have to always be updated and also have some benchmarks about what's happening in the world and how you can really create good environment for your entrepreneurs. And for that reason, actually, I just Googled, this was a really long story, I don't want to talk about it, but I started Googling about like what kind of community in the world, and I found a startup grind community, and I was very over the moon, actually applied for the community. And after some period of time, I was expecting more than 6 months so they can give me, like approval for that. And it was really, really long time. When I got, this approval, I was really thrilled by that. And I just told to everyone that I'm part of the global community. When you understand that you can really bridge, it can be one of the initiators of this, of this bridge and, these connections. You feel very, very proud of yourself, very proud and confident about your ecosystem, that you can really create something for people and they can benefit from this, really, what you're creating. And when it comes to entrepreneurship, generally when Azerbaijan is a really entrepreneurial country, it's about, because, before I can't talk about it, truly innovation, because we are quite young in this term, but when it comes to traditional business, it always was on the top, because people always try to create your own business, launch new businesses, because it was very appreciated at that time, even during the USSR, and also during the especially during the of our independence. And when it comes to innovation, why people just started thinking about innovation, because country generally oil-based country, so we're oil-rich country, so we have to. And it's really, you can't just, expect the oil will last, 50 years, 60 years, 70 years. One day will just run out and you have to just switch from oil economy and just forget about the petroleum, just go to innovation, to the thing that has, can be leveraged and can be handled without any, equipment, without anything, which will generally economy will just affect on. And in my opinion, that it's quite difficult for us nowadays to just shift it completely, but step by step we're just trying to make steps, the small steps to just change the situation in Azerbaijan, especially giving people and taking people out of their comfort zone, because people in the comfort zone, and they have to understand actually that you have to innovate, you have to change the situation, you have to be socially active in terms of, if you see anything wrong with that, you can really change that. If you see the challenge, you shouldn't be neutral to the challenge, but you have to just take initiative and change the things from the very root and eradicate the problem forever.
Awesome, thank you. And I know that the community is really glad to have you. It's directors like yourself that do recognize that that regional and international partnership that really bring the true value to what we're doing. So thank you. You did land on the idea of one of energy sector, right? So what are the other sectors in the startup ecosystem that Azerbaijan excels at or is known for?
Oh yes, along with petroleum, surely energy, we also quite okay with good at agriculture, and also agriculture, and it's been technology starting to to grow, and it's really make me very happy for that. But generally it's agriculture and surely petroleum, because and we're really good at that, at this, especially agriculture. We're trying to just grab new technologies which can really ease the general flow and general innovation funnel. And but surely we can't forget about innovation, because it's in our DNA. And the first oil well was drilled in Azerbaijan in the world in 1848. So for sure, and you can't just forget about that. You just have to innovate on that. Maybe just shift from traditional energy sources to alternative energy. And and it takes some time to create this structure. And I think everything generally depends on the universities, on the mindset. And I think that we have to empower our universities, first of all. If you want to have really great innovation, if you want to have many talent in the country, we have to think about that. Because you would generally think about the three main pillars of the ecosystem. I just want to generalize that about infrastructural, about financial, and surely human. I would say that it's not only about a problem with the human, it's not about a problem with the financial, sources. It's not about having the many venture foundations in the country, or having really smart investors in the country, but also about good talent of people who can really create something, and people who can really mentor these people. And it's really, really important, because the people who come from as a mentor, they're from corporate sector, and sometimes they're or investors, they're very, they're from the traditional business, and they can't imagine, and they can't really invest and think that with a high risk. But we know that it's a high risk but a high return, high revenue. But you have to teach them, you have to educate them that it's really high time. But not always we can do that. But I think that step by step you're showing them some results, something what's happening in the world. And especially I think the COVID-19 really made a great shift for many people, for many enablers, for many people actually in Azerbaijan to just reboot their mindset a little bit and think about these things a little bit in a different manner, from a different angle and from a different perspective. I think that you need some kind of wake-up call, and I think the COVID-19 is a really great wake-up call for them.
And that brings up a lot of different directions we could go. This some people call it the great pause, where not just firms and companies have this opportunity to make sure that they're even relevant. Let alone individuals themselves saying, what should my life look like? What can it look like? What do I want it to look like for myself? You've spoken about innovation quite a bit. I'm just really curious to see, and you also mentioned universities. So, so I'm assuming, and you can clarify, so there's a push in university on the change of this mindset and for innovation. So are there a lot of tech coming out of, or is there some innovation coming out of universities into the private space? And then also, along with that, do large private firms have innovation centers? Do they have a large focus on innovation themselves?
Good question. So, well, first of all, I think that we have to understand that in generally university, after the USSR, we had really big, that we had a really problem with the university, because the mindset in the university was completely different. It was very traditional, that there's a teacher and there's a student or the pupil, and you just teach them about you have to go and just take it. It's everything changed, and people just using completely different scenarios, and people who generally teach in this lecture, in this lessons are from the communist period. That's a really big problem actually, and they can't really imagine their life that people would just, one of the students will be very initiative. If the student very initiative, oh my God, why are you very initiative? Oh my God, I'm afraid of you because you're a threat for me. So it's a main problem generally. But thanks to God that we have really good acceleration programs. We really have youth centers where people can really re-innovate, where people can just go out from cocoon and be a really good caterpillar and then be great butterfly at the very end eventually. So in my opinion, the university, I don't think that we have really how we could say, I don't believe that the university generally as institutions, they're not like research centers. Yeah, I know many universities generally who are really good at that, who really try to make really great improvement and great impact. But when it comes to the quality in terms of the patents, for example, because we had one project called Energy Lab, and we want to just get really good patents from the country, from the universities, which related to the energy. And when we checked these patents, and it was very awful. Many of them they're really outdated and you can't even do anything on them. So people just think just sitting in one place, they don't know how to use even, to Google and look at, and do the competitive analysis that whether you have this or not. And this is the main problem actually. When it comes to the corporate sector, I think they know, and they just have their own team local, and they just do entrepreneurship instead of entrepreneurship.
Sure.
And and for sure, if they and they try always headhunt people and scout right people from the startup, which is I think not fair. And they just they give them really good money, and surely people who are very good at startup rate, and they just go out from the startup and go into the corporate sector because they can find good money from them. And when it comes to general innovation strategy, as an innovation agency, several times we did kind of innovation audits, and we just went to these corporate sector saying that, oh my god, especially agricultural, this greenhouses, they know that they can really, what they know is they just can buy that something from the Netherlands, and that's all. That's really problematic. And when we explain them that, oh my god, we just have some, we know how to just talk to them. We just talk to C-suite, then we just talk to employees to understand actually challenges that they have and how they just handle with all these problems. And what C-suite says and what the employee says, completely different things. But the decision maker is the C-suite or the founders. There's a problem. But generally, the challenge is not about that. The challenge comes different, and they always try to hide the challenges because they don't want to be, be ashamed in front of all the competitors. That's a problem because it's like to accept that I'm a weak, and I know I this is my problem and that's my challenge, because they never accept that as a challenge. They accept it as a problem, and that's a very bad word in Azerbaijani. Problem, unit problem. We'll just say unit problem because the problem is really bad, and that's why I'm saying that is about that. Yes, I know many corporate sectors which does generally this acceleration program they try to sponsor, but it's not all about that. It's not about like just allocating their budget and do the acceleration program. What else? What next after that? Do you use their services? What next? It's not all about about the program, and you made the program only for PR. But what about like commercialization? So
Zach, you're actually touching a very important issue here. And let me ask you, let's assume that Corey and I, as foreigners, decide to come to Baku and start our own company.
Yeah.
Would we go to friends and family for the first capital? Would we go to angel investors? Or would we go to some form of institutionalized accelerator?
Yeah, good question. It depends on a business, first of all. If we're talking about a startup, for surely, I think that we have really innovation agency which can really provide with great tools and with great guidelines, especially when it comes to the foreign and hybrid startup, because we always try to invite hybrid startup to Azerbaijan so they can really create their own research and development centers, or even open their own companies, and they can get kind of 10 years of exemption being a resident of one of the high-tech parks. It means like you don't pay any taxes for 10 years. So generally it's very simple. You can even Google on that. In Azerbaijan, it's very easy to launch a company in Azerbaijan and incorporate the company in Azerbaijan. It's really easy. When it comes to the sustainability, in terms of the resources, financial resources, we do have a lot of resources, but I don't believe that all of these resources are accessible. That's a problem.
Do you have a lot of founders coming into Azerbaijan to take advantage of that program? Since
we do.
You're so close to Georgia,
Yeah, you're right about that. I think that we always, when we go somewhere, we'll just try to, promote our program called the residency program to everywhere, because because we know that it's a great golden middle that people can come here at the same time. It's about mindset exchange at the same time, and also it's about it's technology transfer. We have many people. We have many entrepreneurs from Italy, especially. We have many entrepreneurs from Israel. Azerbaijan and Israel are very close to each other in this term, and so we have lot of people from, during the USSR, during the USSR collapsed, we had many Jewish people who migrated from Azerbaijan, to from Israel, and still they trying to help Azerbaijan because we have more than 30,000 of Jewish people living in the north of Azerbaijan. So that's and it's very important. So especially we have from Israel, we have from France, from Italy, and we have from the CE, from this country like Russia,
Right.
Belarus,
Right.
So we have them,
Now, so the ideas are being imported, and so is some of the talent, as far as at least the leadership. Two questions based on that. Is money coming in following them, like follow-on funding from those countries, especially like say Israel? But then also, is there so they're coming to Azerbaijan because the talent pool is there? It just maybe doesn't have the pool of founders just yet, leading to that, maybe leaning in on what you already brought up as far as mindset, transparency, etc.
Yeah, I think it's because of the expansion, because many of these startups actually, they're all commercialized startups, so they're looking for expansion. So many of them just look at this as an opportunity to scale up. And when you have great opportunities to scale up in the country, which is generally very tolerant in terms of, and when you have, all the, natural resources, everything that, and I think that, and if these generally supported by the government itself, surely the many startups actually looking for that, and it seems very attractive for startup to come to expand. It's and also I think it's about maybe employees. I think it's about like the human resource, because they can find some very at least comparatively cheap human resource in Azerbaijan than they go to other European country, Western European country, for example. And when it comes to, you said about the follow-up, financing, as I said, that generally innovation agency, why I'm saying about innovation agency, because the innovation agency is responsible generally for that. And they can allocate grant, they can allocate investment, they can allocate, all kind of, investment into the startup if the startup really meets all the requirement that is needed for the government. And it's a very long process. The problem is a very long process. And now we're really trying to work on the process to diminish, this bureaucracy, because overdose bureaucracy always just frighten all the startup from out of the country. They will never just trying to deal with that. It's if they feel any threat in their creativity space, they will just forget about this country. It will never just come back to the country. So you have to be very attentive to these details. And I think that it's a very young organization. They established the organization. We established the organization in 2019. And for sure there's many things to do. There's many things to learn. But generally we trying to follow Israeli model, because the same innovation agency you can find actually in Israel, and we have really many. They have very supportive Israeli embassy in the country. We have many good Israeli experts who just come into Azerbaijan, and we go into Israel. And me personally, for example, I'm the graduate of Israeli course about running exploration program. So it's a very intertwined, and it's really great that we have these connections, because it's about exchange. And because the country is almost the same in terms of the population, because Azerbaijan market is a very small market, just 10 million of people. It's not it's not the US market, it's not the Indian market where you can just test your MVP so easily without going out from the country. But
you are part of a a larger region, right?
The region.
And so there's benefits there. And then if you can create those ties by importing some founders and some capital and ideas and their expectations of transparency and their expectations of a breakdown of bureaucracy. George and I were excited to talk to the director out of St. Petersburg last week. And she was speaking about the fact that founders, maybe the foreign founders, are afraid of coming into the region because of the rule of law. And so if we do go there and found a business, we're maybe a little skeptical on the paperwork being the paperwork and holding up against any risks.
That's really sorry, just interruption.
Yep.
It's really problematic, especially in the times when we just try to just call the investor to come into Azerbaijan and just investing in the startup, because they always just go through the many statistics, and they understand actually the problem is that it's not all about economical situation of the country. It's all bad because we do have really good economics. The problem with the political problems that we have actually within the country, especially that we have some conflicts with the neighborhood country, and especially for sure it's not that attractive for the entrepreneur to reach in the country which is in the mode of war. Like why have to, yeah, for sure. And it's also that we really lose it from this perspective. But um, I do believe that people, especially investors, will just understand, because now it's really time. Because I had some call with the, people from the Draper University, because we really collaborate with the Draper University about that, and they said that it's really high time for us not only think about Silicon Valley or all about the United States, but also to expand to other cities, especially to other parts of the world, because we're looking for the new talent from this. And especially when in life what's happening, in the world, this diversity, inclusivity, topics really just pop up, and really people just try to always keep this hype, and and I do believe that it would just play really good benefit for us.
Yeah. So, George, do you have any follow-up questions here?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting that we have the concept of the law, property rights, effectively being one of the issues that we, as let's say, investors in a startup, might have to face. I think the judging from the quality of the internet, the infrastructure technologically seems to be adequate. Correct?
Yeah,
Zach?
yeah, yeah.
So once we look at the cornerstones of building a startup in a digitalized era, I assume you're going through the early stages of digitalization, where you're taking traditional processes and you're building a digitalized aspect to these processes. Now, the challenge that we have seen is one, tech applications on education. That is a flourishing sector. The other is fintech. And the third is healthcare, particularly the provision of healthcare with online resources. Are these sectors where you see a future in Azerbaijan?
Cool. Yeah, just one thing, and I'll just go back to your question. And about, like, especially about the bridging, when I think that it's about, when I think about the mindset, I think that it's not all about the, the country, it's all about the talents too, because they just expect for them that someone would just come with, with any plate and just bring them money. It's not about that. You have to just Google, you have to just research and try to get out. The problem, I think, is about that now we understand that it's really high time not to think about Azerbaijani startup, but think about Azerbaijani founders. I think the concept completely different. It's not about like just be kind of obsessed with the nationalism, with all these things, but be very adequate and be very rational about choosing the right startup. It's about, because you understand that, oh my god, this startup really good startup. It's because it's the founder. Maybe the founder is Azerbaijani. You shouldn't be so upset with the concept of Azerbaijani startup. When you have the concept, you always fail, because you always think within your boundary. That's a really big problem, actually. And back to your question, George, you're right about that. I think that if you said several things, because I had the report of the BCG about Azerbaijan, about like which areas should be developed and should be elaborated. And I think that one of them should be health sector. And what I think, by person, I think that education sector is very important. I think because especially alternative education, because we have some community division in Azerbaijan. I think that because like some people in Azerbaijan speak Russian and speak English. I think like around 60%, 70%. Like most, some people speak only Azerbaijani. It means like they speak Azerbaijani and they speak Turkish. Some people speak those Azerbaijani, Russian, English. Yeah, there's one thing about that, because people who speak Azerbaijani, they really have a little problem. They have really challenged. They can't really get information from internet, because they have to just Google either on either on English or in Turkish. So just they found one way out actually how to do that. But if they don't know that, it's really problematic, which we don't have lots of websites we can with the right content. We don't have many I would say the books compared to the Russian book that we have in the country. So it's kind of, I would say, discrimination of the people who just speak only Azerbaijani. So I think that they have lots of problem, and they're very, very happy to see any tech startup related to the education, especially edutech startups. So one of these, I can tell you, ABC Planet, for example, we had a pre-acceleration program in January. We had a 3-month pre-acceleration program. At the very end, we just took him as an idea, and then he just sprouted up. And with he had already YouTube channel with more than 300,000 of people, where he already had a distraction, and then he just had to just to take everyone from this YouTube channel to the application, and after that he elaborated his own. He developed his application. He enrolled in Draper University program and also got cert, among the all, like 50 teams, And I think that especially people were very, very delighted about that. And they called me about, many media just called me that we want him for interview. And I understood that it didn't really need, because people are looking for the alternative education, for informal education. Because if they can't get something that is practical from the formal education, from the universities, from high schools, from schools, then they have to think about, then we have to have at least some alternative. So in technology, we have to develop in technology because the banking system now starting to digitalize. But there's one problem, at least the problem that I had 2 years, 3 years ago, when you go to approach to any bank saying that we have extraordinary solution for you, so you'll be one of the first in the country, they say, oh really? Can other banks do this first? Then I will just follow. It's not about like being the first, because they're really afraid of being the first. That's a really big problem, because they're afraid to venture out. They really, sorry for saying that, but they really just afraid to go out from their rat holes. There's a problem.
Well, that's why we call this real talk. We don't have to be sorry about saying such things. But and that speaks to some systemic mindset issues that are generations old, right? Can you maybe expand upon some of the other barriers to entrepreneurship or opportunity? You mentioned education being one. George was asking about access to capital earlier.
And of course, women. Do women have access to the same resources?
Yeah, that's good. Well, I think that I will start with the family first of all. I think the problem also, one of the main problems is the family, for sure, because the family generally demotivate you to start your business first of all, because they think that this generally Soviet mindset that you have to go to the companies, you have to go to the government, you have to go to any embassy.
Just get a nice job. Just get a good job.
Even one of them, my mom. I had several times even some invitation from the Turkish embassy to work for Turkish embassy. My mom, oh my God, this is great. I said, Mom, please don't interfere in my work, because I know what I have to do. So family, because they think that you have to be, it's about social pressure. And I understand these people too, because these people can't live independently. They really dependent on the community. They really dependent on what's happening around them, about their neighbor. They have to just ask their neighbors. They have to ask what's happening, who just thinking about you in a negative way, I don't know, like when you're crossing the road. So that's a real problem. When it comes to women, I think that we do have really good environment for women. I think for sure we don't have a lot of women entrepreneurs, that we have to understand that fact too, but generally this tendency is happening in many countries. But when it comes to, we have many programs dedicated for women entrepreneurs, because generally it's kind of respected that we have some people like women entrepreneurs, and especially when we go back to the history of Azerbaijan, when one of the first Eastern countries gave the women right to vote, so in 1918. So generally so we don't have this problem. But I think that we have, what kind of problem we can have is, I think it's kind of I would say sexism, but not in a soft way, in terms of, especially in the corporate sector, for sure, I think. And you can't just show that you're right person, or people just especially when your community is very male dominated, so you're gonna have some of this kind of problems, especially that you can't prove that you are the right person, you have the skills. And that's what women, I think, they just change their strategy and they become less emotional. They just change it. They just change this mindset, because they will be blamed because they're emotional. But you're a woman, you're emotional. You can't think you can't think adequate. I don't know. You can't think very reasonably. I think there's a problem, and so they shift. And I do believe, and it's not really right. It's not a good thing to just, to be in the community when people like having the poker face on their face. It's not the right thing. So I think it's just changing. But generally, I have to admit the fact that the community is very male dominated, for sure. But I think that in terms of the respect, in terms of the promotion, I think that we have certainly advantage in terms of other like neighborhood countries, because we
it's
about culture.
So Zach, you mentioned that there were programs specifically for female or women entrepreneurs, founders,
Yeah.
etc. Can you expand about? Can you maybe talk a little bit
Sure.
about some of those programs? Like how easy is it to find them?
It's great. But generally it is a requirement for every acceleration program at least to have 50% of female founders, because it's like one of the requirements, especially if the acceleration program is corporate funded, it's funded by the corporate sector. They just ask you to, they just require you to have at least 50% of female founders, because it's very important. And we have specifically acceleration programs like, if I'm saying it was Launch Up or something like that. And also, like, we have several co-working spaces related only dedicated for women. We have many programs dedicated for women, like We program, Women Entrepreneurship Program. Mm-hmm. It's about like they just get awards, for the thing that they've done in an ecosystem. And I think yes. So even in an innovation agency, for example, I can say you one thing. Just several months ago, me and Fidan, we just started our own company called Scaling, this online business development platform. Before any pandemics, the idea was before any pandemics. It's not a hype. So we just started that, and 90% of the company are females. So I'm very happy for that. There's a completely different strategy, and I think that it's about us too. We have to educate ourselves to work with women too, because to know what to say, how to act, how to behave, and be be attentive to about our manners, how we interact. Sure. So from this perspective, I think that many people, I would say, they're not that happy to do that. I think it's about they don't want to educate them. And the same happening actually when it comes to equality program, inclusivity program. I know like especially Black-owned businesses or having diversity in your team. It is the same. It's about education. You can be very stubborn. You can be very conservative in terms of that. It is normal actually. It's because
access as well. But, it's about Zach. I just want to. I know George has to take off, so I want to give him the opportunity to say thank you in person. George, I know that you have the rest of your day to get to.
Absolutely, Zach. Thank you very much for taking the time. I think. Two things before I depart. One is that Corey and I always are ready to help. If you need our help, we can give all kinds of support. And the idea of these discussions that we have with directors of startup growing around the world is to extend a hand and say, we're here, we're in the Great Lakes. We have a beautiful, beautiful resource, just like you do with the Caspian Sea. And if you need any kind of support, we are happy to provide it. The second is, what do you see as being the next normal?
So, so the question about like, are we gonna have a next normal, new normal? Yeah, this is different. The problem is if I knew that, like I would just change everything in my life. That's a problem because next year I want to move to Canada, and I had an opportunity for like to have MBA degree in Canada, but I can't do that because I don't know it will be if it will be on site or will be online, and there's a problem. So it's a very difficult question, and for me to answer. But for sure, life is changing, and we can't stick in one thing. We can't just rely on the thing that will just go as a straight line. For sure we'll have very pitfalls, and it's quite normal. I think that that's what makes life interesting and amazing, and makes our entrepreneurs to just a little bit shuttle from their places and think about the new solutions. Because many start, as I don't want to just be as any person saying the same things, but as many startups actually come just came out from the recessions. So I do believe that these, the same talk with the Draper University, and we do believe actually the same thing is going to happen after COVID-19.
Thank you. That's really interesting. I hope that when we have the next round of discussions, Fidan will be able to speak about her experience as a female entrepreneur in Azerbaijan.
I think we're gonna make sure to get into that. We're gonna make sure to do that after you leave, George. You're not gonna be around for that, but
thank you very much, by the way, George, for everything you said about the help, support. we're in Azerbaijan. Just think about Azerbaijan. Just come to Azerbaijan. We'll be very happy to see you. And don't forget about the cuisine. I don't know whether you tasted of a kebab or not, but don't forget about that too. Entrepreneurship is great, but also you have to be full.
Thank you.
Great.
All right, George, I'll see you in a couple days, okay? And now, Zach, I would love to hear more about the company that you and Fidan have founded, because you were about to speak to that. So I'd love to hear about the company that you guys have founded, what it is that you're doing, what stage you're in, why it's a good idea. You already talked about the fact that it's a good opportunity right now because of pandemic. So I want to hear more about that. And then I'd like to close up with hearing from Fidan about some of the experiences that she has as a female entrepreneur in Azerbaijan. So
great. Almost like 1 year ago, we had one trip with Fidan, to Croatia, to Europe, and we just had, it's because of the social entrepreneurship, and we were kind of involved in that, and we were kind of astounded by the fact that people really needed. There was a challenge with people, about the challenge that people always just wanted. They're saying that we have a problem with the content, we can't find a really right content, especially when it comes to entrepreneurship, exploration, because they, the Western Balkan region, they kind of concentrated, like we concentrated on traditional business, all the business that they inherit from their grandparents, or from their parents. So and we thought, when we just came back, we thought, why not actually to start our own business? It's great to work for the government. It's great to work, it's all the stability, for sure. It's great, to work for corporate, it's also kind of stability and all this kind of new challenges, it's great. But sometimes it's great to be your own boss, to create something new, but it's not all about being independent. It's not all about being financially independent. It's about to have the right values that you want to have in your country, in your community and your company. Because you can't say to Deloitte that I don't want to have these values. Their own values. They have, I don't know, for 20 years, these values. And we want to create our own values. And we want to hire people who are aligned with our values. And we created scaling. It was completely at the first stage, it was completely different idea. We want to create kind of platform where you could just go through the acceleration programs, without any manual work from the coordinator. But they have to just send you deliverable kind of things. And then we thought, no, actually, we're not ready for that. Let's just change a little bit, and we just, on a daily basis, innovation agency in Barama, in the place we're working now, we just doing our exploration program. We have a content, we're writing the content, we're designing, programs. And we thought, why not actually to sell this product? Why not to have, because we thought that it's also about commitment. We just committed to that. We just gave all of our energy to create something. And why not to just make it as a product? Because if people just come in saying to us that we are very delighted by your program, we're very happy that we participate in the program, why not actually to sell the program? Because compensation is very important. And we created, and we also hired an amazing CEO. She worked for Skyscanner. So yeah, she was a growth hack specialist, and she was she's amazing. Actually, she's living in London. And what we did just created the business, and we had generally it's online business development platform. We decided to make it an online business development platform because we thought that it's really hard time, because 90% of all pre-acceleration program that we did in innovation agency was online because of the mentor that we have from different countries. Why not? We understood that it works. It's not all about a synergy. Yeah, I do understand that face-to-face communication is great, and you have to have at least to have some kind of energy or electricity between the mentor and the mentee. But you can really avoid that too. Without any problem, especially when you have to in pandemic. And we created that, and we sent several startups to the Drip University. We funded several startups to participate in Drip University online program, and we had really great return in terms of they're gonna be fundraised, they're gonna be funded, invested by Adam Draper, by Tim Draper, and one of them by 500 startups. So we understood that, oh my God, it works really. It's about a mindset that you have to change. You have to just take people out from the country and just show other people. And I do believe that it was the first time that Azerbaijan actually participated in very international, in international acceleration program. But yeah, especially I'm talking about Drip University. I'm not talking about 500 startups. So we had several Azerbaijanis who participated in that. Yeah, And we had our values. We wanted to distribute the wealth. We wanted to be, you know, genuine with people. We wanted to listen them. And, you know, and especially what happened in light, what happened in the United States, especially in the world, which is going on in the world, we want to be a little bit, you know, we want to create our own program called Scaling Equality Program. Scaling Equality Program is not only about black-owned business, everyone, you know, everyone, and everyone is not only about it for female, it's for everyone. So yeah, we just started that process. We generally, the program will consist of 3 parts: education, acceleration, and demo day. Why we have to have education? Because, you know, it's not our place to talk about this topic, especially when it comes to the Black movement, you know, Black founder movement, because, you know, we can't talk about that, and we know that it was, you know, we can't make this, you know, distrust between the people, because, you know, they'll say, why it's because you just do it because of the hype. And we just started contacting to started growing ambassadors, and they were very astonished by the fact that, hey, yes, let's do that, because Corey, that we have equality, you know, team in Startup Grind. And I thought that every day, every year, they just, you know, complain about the program, about people that, hey, you don't, you know, it's not that, you know, diversity is not that, you know, celebrated in your communities. Let's just start. So generally they complain about that. So, and I thought that why not actually to just engage all the Startup Grind chapter directors in one thing, especially people, you know, like Black-owned, you know, Startup Grind chapter directors. And it worked. We have now around 7-8 ambassadors. Every week they just talk about the challenges, about the problems, about the, you know, opportunities. Most importantly, we talk about opportunities, not about like just, you know, we do understand this fact. We have this fact, we have this problem, and we have to just change the problem. But not we want to be educated too.
Sure.
As scaling, you know, we want to be educated. We don't want to say that we know the solution.
Well,
No.
we're all a product of generations and generations of the systemic
Right.
issues. So
Yeah,
like,
right.
We can't help it.
Yeah,
we need the help.
Exactly. And I say that you know the problem and you know your solution. I don't want to just say that it's really the right solution. So we just want to help them to get funded. You know, probably after the 1 month of education program, we're going to have acceleration program. Now we're looking for the sponsor. So we have some negotiation with really great people, with great ambassadors like Gwen Young. You know, we're just talking to them about that. And hopefully we're going to have really good corporate sponsorship, or at least CRC sponsorship, that can help us to our acceleration program. You know, and we don't care, to be honest, about the six. We just care about people. About, like, yesterday we had one call with Cerise, one virtual chat with Cerise, and, you know, you can just watch that and you can really understand actually her desire, you know, her emotions, you know, the shades of her emotions. You know, you can just you know, write everything in like with paper, with pen. It was very, you know, it was great. That we want this generosity. We don't want to just have you know, something very artificial. We want people to just speak about that. And yeah, I'm very happy that I'm surrounded by 5 women, 5 ladies who just run this program, and I'm one of the co-founders. And they do really great.
Well, that's a good way to land on asking Fidan to maybe participate and let us know a little bit about her background.
Yeah.
And then same thing, like so beyond just your background, Fidan, then like why tech, why your passion for it, what brought you to entrepreneurship, and then a little bit about your experience.
Yeah, absolutely. Hi, first of all. Well, I kind of started when I was about 17, 18. Our team had an idea about creating a wearable product to prevent posture problems. So they invited me in actually as a pitcher, as the presenter, because I'm not a developer / programmer in any way, but I was the presenter. And it just so happened that we won Microsoft's Imagine Cup competition in Azerbaijan, and then we went to the international finals and actually won the 2nd place international as well. And I think that was the first time ever when the judges and the people who came up to us, they actually pointed out that it's good that you have a gender balance in the team, because we had 2 female, 2 male team members, and I don't think before that point we ever thought about that. It wasn't an issue. I think it was more, in Azerbaijan at least, the problem was our age. I don't think people trusted that a bunch of 18 years old would do anything useful, or that, you know, that would work. But that was the first time anyone pointed out that it's good that you have females in the team. And then as I started to, you know, I started my career in the startup world, let's say, and I worked for an accelerator for about a year. And I think I have definitely encountered a couple of situations where people wouldn't trust. I don't think I had same opportunities as male colleagues, let's just say that. And the only way to fix that, which I found worked, was you just remain competent and you do your work. And, you know, I noticed this, and I think I mentioned this to Zaur as well, is that at every single position that I've ever had, I've had to write down like the list of everything that I'm doing just to prove that I need to be promoted, which is funny because, well, at least that means that my CV writing resume preparation is easier. But the point is, sometimes you need to do a bit more to be promoted, and sometimes you need to prove that you can do a job well, even if you're a female. And that's something that is definitely happening here. But honestly, I think if you just keep being good at what you're doing and keep learning, and if you prove that whatever you're doing is great, it doesn't matter where you're coming from and what background you have and what gender. And I think this is part of what we're trying to also promote with the Scaling Equality program, is these people, these ambassadors are, you know, of different races, different genders, different backgrounds. But I think we are trying to shift the conversation from the challenges and the problems, the obvious problems that there are, to the solutions, and to how you can actually fix the situation rather than focusing on what's wrong. And hopefully with this program, we're going to be able to redistribute wealth, and provide funding for some of the underrepresented community members. And like I said, it may look like we're just capitalizing on what's happening, but the thing is, as a female, as our team members as well, we've faced inequality issues for a long time. And it's not just about people of color, it's about how a lot of people are not given the same opportunities as others. And so it was really important for us to do this, and hopefully we're going to be able to make some impact with this.
Well, sure. It's easy to apologize for the opportunity or taking advantage of it, which it's not. That's not what you're doing. So, I've always recommended that folks in your position, and there's a globe filled with people that are trying to affect this change, and they've been doing it for generations. But now is a really amazing time that we can have these conversations and have them honestly. So I just really suggest people stop saying sorry.
Yeah.
You know, like lean into it. And I'm wondering, are there adequate opportunities, or how easy is it to find an ally for equity? And I guess what I mean specifically is, as a female entrepreneur, is it fairly easy to find a male in power who's willing and able to share the connections, the value of network, and share in that equity? Because equity's got to be given up, right? Like it's either taken or given.
Well, the situation has been, to be fair, so far, when we're onboarding ambassadors, because that's what we've been focusing on so far, most of them, to be fair, are female. And just because this is what the conversation is about. Obviously, most of them are female, but I think we're seeing a good shift in that if it's a male that we're contacting, if we're reaching out to somebody, then I think if you talk about your values clearly, if you talk about your mission, if you talk about why you're doing this, there's a great chance to get allies, whether they're male or female. I think again, when it's easy to get into this role of a victim. Oh, like I don't get enough opportunities and stuff, but you need to be professional. Come on, if you have an impressive LinkedIn profile, if you have an impressive presentation / pitch that you're sending out to this person that you want to work with, and if you sound sane, professional, and stating what you want clearly, talking with numbers, it's gonna work. There's no way, like, you're gonna get a no maybe a couple of times, but if you're persistent, it's possible. And I think like you said, it's only going to work if male, executives or whatever are participating in this as well. And I think we've been fortunate enough to contact people, male and female, who've been really willing to support this initiative. And like I said, I think it's about you being excellent at what you do, and then the gender or race shouldn't be a problem.
All right. Well, congratulations, you both, on the success of the program that you've created.
Thank you.
And best of luck with its future. We're kind of over on our time here, but the last questions I do like to ask is what, and it looks like you've already been leaning on the global startup grind community, which is important. But what can startup grind global chapter directors do for you guys? What can we do for your ecosystem, or you individually?
Yeah, well, I think with Zaur, we founded that, I think we knew that Startup Grind was a huge community when we joined, and we just didn't expect that it would be so supportive. I think like a lot of our ambassadors happen to be Startup Grind chapter directors, and it's amazing how they're willing to be supportive, even if they don't have that much time. They're like, I don't know how I'm going to be involved, but I do want to be involved, so sign me in. So it's great. And I think, yeah, if they keep supporting smaller chapters, and it's, again, I guess, in comparison with other countries, our chapter could be considered as one of like the diversity chapter, right? Where we're like in the Caucasus and like we have 300 members. But if the chapter directors around the world connect to each other and help each other, if they continue doing that, then I think that's the whole point of this community. And I think we've been lucky enough to see that actually happening, and how like the first ambassador of Scaling Equality was Therese Gamble, and she's the chapter director of Louisville,
Jacksonville.
Jacksonville. Yeah, Jacksonville. Yeah. So it's that just being connected, and if you can't participate, then at least refer to somebody who can. And that's I think the whole point of this community. And I think we've seen this personally, how this community has been powerful and effective in helping and supporting us. So we do at the end of the day, we do also ask, how can we help? Because that's one of the values of Startup Grind, right? Don't just ask for something, offer something as well. So it's been amazing that we've been able to help them as well, to support them in ways. And if it's just about supporting each other, that's the best thing that we can do, I think.
That's awesome. Well, if they're, obviously you're practiced in asking when you need it, but again, so keep us in mind, especially when we do these hunting for silver linings. We are in touch with 3 times a week. We're in touch with chapter directors from around the globe. So we've already been doing a pretty good job of doing that, making connections, right? So last question is, for the entrepreneurs that are in your ecosystem, coming to you because you are the mayors of your ecosystem. What's some of the advice you've been giving out lately? Or some of the, if not the advice, what are some of the questions or big concerns for the entrepreneurs on the ground?
So,
Zaur?
yeah, thank you. Well, what I can say, just I think that first of all they have to understand it's not just advice. It's like I would say like a brother advice is about like they have to think a bit wide and not about like be stick in one country, just thinking about one country, thinking about 10 million of people. No, you have to create the startups. You have to create a startup, launch the startup that's very global. It's not about like think always about the feasibility, think always about the viability and desirability of the product. You can't just and never invest in minimal viable product if you can really just you can just test it without less effort. And trying to just have some traction. Never just go and not expect someone will just try to believe in your product. You have to believe first in your product. You have to believe in your idea. And one thing, just Google.
Right. The knowledge is out there, right? That's been a consistent theme of what you've talked about. So with that, I want to just I want to say thank you so much for the generosity of your time today, and for participating. And I look forward to a continuing and long friendship.
Sure. Thank you.
All right.
Great. Good luck.
Zach,
Like,
take care. Thank you.
stay safe.
Bye-bye.